What happened at a wedding that let you know the marriage was going to end in a divorce? The groom invited his female friend. She was in the early stages of pregnancy. Towards the end of the night, the bride asked aforementioned friend who the father was. The friend cheerfully said the groom's name. I bet that marriage ended quickly. My uncle red-faced and screaming at 14-year-old me on his wedding day to make sure I wear condoms so I don't have to marry some bitch I knocked up. Edit, word. Edit, this was 30 years ago when having children out of wedlock still carried a stigma. I'm sure my grandfather told my uncle to do the right thing and marry her. My mother, who is older than my uncle, got kicked out of the house at 18 for being pregnant with me, and I'm sure that influenced my uncle's decision. Well, at least he did care for your future. The groom didn't look at the bride once. That's really sad. I'd be crushed. It was strange. I'm a musician who used to play loads of weddings, but this wedding took the cake. What made it worse was seeing the bride so happy. The bride, whom I didn't even know, apparently designated me to help decorate the reception hall prior to the wedding. I went to do so, and her mother was there, telling me in a hushed, scared whisper that I better not mess anything up because the bride would be furious. Everything was to be a certain way, and if it was wrong, there'd be hell to pay. I gave her the benefit of the doubt, chalked it up to wedding anxiety, and during the reception I tried to chat with her a bit and she literally rolled her eyes at me. I also didn't see her look at the groom once at the wedding or the reception. They were split less than a year later. Later, the groom confided to me and my husband that the morning of the wedding he'd been filled with an overwhelming feeling of dread and spent several hours just sitting on his lawn, thinking, I shouldn't do this. But it was paid for, tons of guests were waiting, lots of family, including us, had come in from out of state, and he felt he had to go through with it. Apparently the bride had a history of being awful and controlling. No clue what made him propose to her in the first place. Edit, just Facebook stalked the ex-bride. Her latest status update is announcing her wedding date with a new guy. Someone jokingly asked in the comments if they've set a date for the divorce. Oh snap. Holy shit, that update. Friend got married. On his honeymoon, his wife went to the spa, he stayed in the room to chill. Housekeeping came, young cute girl, friend paid her for a blowjob. Told me about all proud. Didn't last a year. Wow. Your friend sounds like a piece of shit. Edit, grammar Nazis caught me. Fixed it. The groom's vows. Dear bride, we've had our ups and downs, mostly downs. Edit, no, the groom did not call her bride, I just used that as filler. I realize this makes it significantly less funny and I'm sorry you are disappointed. Plot twist, their kid had Down syndrome. My cousin, the bride, told us, as she was going from table to table thanking the guests, that she didn't think it would last. We were stunned. They lasted about a year. Can you take your gift back at that point? Would it be rude? I wish I had thought of it at the time. The bride came creeping up to my brother and handed him a note detailing how much she loved him and if he wanted her all he had to do was object when the time came. He handed the note off to the groom's sister and we left before the ceremony began. My Facebook says they did end up getting married, haven't seen them since then though. He missed such a great opportunity. Does anyone object? Yes. I do. Bride has an excited look on her face. These two shouldn't get married because the bride handed me this note describing her love for me. This man deserves better. Hand the letter to groom, leave. His, greater than her. 2, first of all, I can't believe this is my highest rated comment. Secondly, people keep saying they don't ask if anyone objects at weddings anymore and my reply to you is this, I only said it because the bride asked him to object when the time came, so she must have been expecting it. Greater than bride has an excited look on his face. I wanna hear more about this plot twist instead. Dude said the wrong name at the altar. God damn it. Roz. We knew the couple was in trouble when they frowned during most of the ceremony and later didn't go on a honeymoon because they couldn't agree on a destination. They had plenty of money, just no desire to compromise. Time to have 2 honeymoons, don't see the need for frowns on that. Her vows. They were friends of mine who dated for nearly 2 years before their wedding. He loved her more than she loved him, obvious to all our friends, and we suspected she begrudgingly said yep to his proposal. He said his vows first and went on and on about loving her for the rest of his life. During hers, she started with 438 days. That's how long I've loved you. It seemed sweet until she ended her vows with, and I promise to love you for at least 438 more. Most thought nothing of it and some friends called me a dick for saying it was a subconscious sign she wasn't in it for the long haul. She left him exactly that amount of days after the wedding with a note that said, "I kept my vow to love you for 438 days more, but I can't for a single day more." Called it. If she went through that whole big dramatic, almost literary, gesture, then she must not be a very down-to-earth person. People like that see themselves as the protagonist of a story and everyone else as a supporting character. They then use said people as props for their own development. Groom got caught getting frisky with a bridesmaid. That marriage lasted for about 2 hours. A bunch of my family members are betting on how long one of my cousin's marriage would last. It's definitely going to end in divorce, but we just don't know when. Here's all the shit that happened. Pre-wedding, the couple can't even agree on invitation card designs, so they decided each would have their own. Some people received 2 invitations. Wedding, they're both from different races, and the groom's family insisted on having a wedding ceremony from their culture too. The bride refused the part where she has to kneel before her husband and wash his feet clean. The groom's family insisted and she was stuck doing it. The bride got tired with all the photo taking and refused to pose for any more photographs, even though she hadn't taken photos with the groom's extended family. Meanwhile, she had already taken photos with her entire family, extended family, and parents' friends. The groom's cousin told the bride she walked in elegantly and she spent hours crying and refusing to come out for the wedding dinner. Half the groom's family boycotted the wedding over the bride's race and religion. Post-wedding, the bride insisted they should fly first class for their honeymoon. The groom insisted it's a waste of money, even though they both come from money. The bride flew first class, the groom stuck to economy. My sister's new husband made out with a bridesmaid on the dance floor of the reception. During the ceremony, when the priest started asking the bride, "Do you take this man to be your?" she started laughing uncontrollably and couldn't stop. It was cute for about 10 seconds and then things got real uncomfortable. They lasted a year and change. We all kinda knew the only reason they were getting married was because she got pregnant. This sounds like a particular flavor of panic attack. I've seen it before, where someone who won't let themselves cry bursts out laughing instead. It's kind of disturbing, and really sad. My sister laughs in uncomfortable or dangerous situations. When we were younger, we almost drowned at the beach and she laughed hysterically the whole time. When she left her abusive boyfriend, she laughed when we came to pick her up. The bride had the minister put "till death, or divorce, do us part" into the ceremony. At the rehearsal dinner, the groom's mom is in tears, because he looks miserable and he was. We all knew it. During the vows they had written for each other, the bride starts with, "I know I can be a pretty terrible person, and I don't know why you've stuck around, but that's all going to change starting today." They were divorced a year later. They spent $50,000 on a Disney wedding and the bride spent 0 time anywhere near the in-laws for several hours. She ran off a week later. Edit. Holy shit, my inbox. Here's to you, uncle. That bitch can eat shit. Ha 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 ha. Also, he's not my uncle by blood. But that's how I know he's a good guy. Maybe closer to a savior of the messed up in the head, but still good. The groom, groomsmen, groom's friends, groom's father, etc., all males, just for clarification, kept making jokes about being tied down, having a nagging wife, the end of being single, not being able to flirt with other women. Basically everything was about how marriage actually sucks. This is something I will never understand. If marriage sounds that awful to you, why even get married? My ex-wife misses me a lot, but her aim's getting better. Her aim's getting better. It's funny because marriage is terrible. My cousin's wedding. The groom invited his ex, who was also the mother of his 1-year-old son. He and my cousin had been dating for longer than 2 years, and my cousin, who was then very pregnant herself, got into a loud screaming match with him over it in a bathroom. They eventually came out and got married, my cousin with puffy red eyes from crying that you can see in every wedding photo that was taken. Greater than, who was also the mother of his 1-year-old son. He and my cousin had been dating for longer than 2 years. He impregnated this woman while dating your cousin, and she still wanted to marry him? And have her own child with him? The family widely believes that she only married him because she was pregnant herself and that she thought it was better to be married to a cheater than to be a single mother. While saying the classic "I do," instead of looking deep into his bride's eyes, the groom was peeking at one of the bridesmaids. Maybe she had a booger hanging out. Or like, really nice titties. The groom called the bride a cunt at the reception. They totally got divorced. Yeah, that'll do it. Edit. Okay, I get it, Australians are constantly calling each other cunts, holy shit. At the end of the reception, the guys are sitting at a table away from everyone else talking, and we asked the groom why he proposed. His answer? Because she was naked. Marriage lasted about a year and a half. She flinched when he turned to kiss her. They were divorced within 6 months. The day of her wedding, I asked my sister-in-law if she was enjoying her day, and all she said was, "It's a fucking nightmare. This is the worst day of my life." Well, on the one hand, I can understand, because weddings are a nightmare to plan and host, especially if you're the kind of person that hates attention like that. She loves attention more than she loves my brother. He didn't look me in the eyes during the entire ceremony. He stared at the preacher the whole fucking time. Gave me a kiss on the hand when it was time to kiss the bride. Also, didn't tell me that his father was a sexual pervert that wanted to pound me. He thought it was normal and okay for his dad to think this about me. Edit. I truly didn't expect this to gain this much attention, but thank you guys for commenting and asking questions. I was having a shitty day earlier, but remembering some of this crazy marriage shit has given me a few laughs this evening and reminded me of how great of a life I have now. Smile. Have a great evening, everyone. Thanks again. Edit 2. Wow. First off, the top 5 list is posted under all these comments. I posted it last night before all of this really gained attention. I didn't expect anyone else to be interested this much into my story, lol. I haven't checked this since last night, about 12 hours, and there were a ton of more comments and questions. But thanks again, everyone. The bride asked my brother and I to come object. Our flight was delayed and we didn't get there in time. Did not last long. I was reunited with a family member just before her wedding. We went out drinking, and she proudly pointed out a guy at the bar that she'd just gone on a trip with and had a week-long prenup sex romp. She seemed to think I'd think that was naughty and funny. I just felt bad for her future husband, but figured it was just a bad choice. The day of the wedding, I went to see her in the bridal suite. She had the guy there him. She's fucked him the night before the wedding. They lasted a few years, but it was a miserable few. No respect found here. I was working at a wedding factory. On Monday we got a call the Saturday wedding was cancelled. They were told that they would lose the deposit, around $7,000. Then on Thursday they said it was back on. When the guests arrived, everyone was pissed off. It seems they told everyone it was off, then 2 days later that it was on. The ceremony was about 3 minutes. The bride then changed into sweatpants and then everyone got angry drunk. Well, this won't last long, I thought. Then on the following Monday the bride walked into my, then, wife's divorce attorney's office. Huh, you work at a reception hall and your wife's a divorce attorney. You set him up, she knocks him down. I like your style. The groom looked drunk and the bride seemed incredibly angry. Then there was this woman walking around during the reception placing bets on when they would divorce. I later found out she was the mother of the groom. It hasn't ended in divorce yet, that will happen after their sons finish college. During the groom's speech at the wedding, he told us that he was first attracted to his wife's sister. Very thoughtful of him to make everyone feel included. When the father of the bride, tells the groom, "How can you marry somebody like her? You are too nice, you deserve better." Surely enough, the marriage lasted less than 3 years. During the whole time, the wife was doing drugs and prostituted herself to get money for drugs. Just got married 2 weeks ago. Wife's father engraved her name and wedding date on the cake knife. Mine was absent. Edit, I'll keep you guys updated. Edit 2, my name was absent from the knife. Dude, you know what you should do on your year anniversary? Get a matching cake knife with your name and have a small ceremony. That way there is a pair. Then 5-year anniversary, get one with both your names. Make sure to thank your Phil for the great tradition. I actually gave it to him and told him it wasn't finished day after the wedding. Our friend was the girl who had spent a whole year setting up for the one day. They had taken 6 months of dancing lessons and she has spent a ridiculous amount of time looking good and dressing up her bridesmaids for the wedding, of which my wife was one. So come the night of the wedding, the groom meets up with his old friends and starts to get blackout drunk. He got so drunk he didn't even recognize us, rather just pushing us aside to get to the bathroom. The worst part was the dance itself. It was really heartbreaking to see them stumble around and watch the panic on her face as he realized he had no idea what was going on. I gave it 6 months at the time, but they ended up 3 years. She ended up marrying another woman. The groom would not stop crying. He cried through the entire ceremony and most of the reception. Wedding was going okay until the bride and groom got hammered. Groom's baby mama ex showed up. Then the bride proceeded to lock herself in a room crying and continuing to drink by herself. It was a SHT show to say the least. The bride got blackout drunk and asked me to kill her husband. He was busy fighting one of his groomsmen in the other room. They divorced 2 years later. Toward the end of the reception, the bride suggested to the groom he run home and change into street clothes so they could clean the venue and get the deposit returned. Groom got back and bride had opened all the gift envelopes and paid back relatives with the cash they contained. Source: the groom was me. Sister's wedding. Husband ends speech saying, "Thanks for settling for me." 18 months later agree to divorce. That one's a little sad. I thought my sister's wedding was. Her husband got blackout drunk and they got into an argument. He passed out and she ended up throwing a bucket of ice water in his face to snap him out of it. She was devastated about it. Happy ending, he made it up to her big time. Also, he felt very out of it, even the next day. Turns out he had traces of Rohypnol in his system. His own brother roofied him in hopes he wouldn't marry my sister because he wanted their own friendship to remain the same. My brother-in-law has disowned most of his family because of this and his brother just got out of a 4-year prison sentence. I do audio/visual for social events, a lot of weddings. At one engagement party, my co-worker tells the story of the soon-to-be groom trying to carry off his soon-to-be bride, because he's manly and will have his way with her. Anyways, she is screaming at him to put her down and when he finally complies she slaps him right across the face and yells, "I'm not done dancing." It was a shotgun wedding, they proudly proclaimed it as such. Overheard the bride's mother saying that the bride was such a later bloomer for waiting until 19 to trap herself a man. The child is 3 years old and they have been separated, don't know if divorced, since she was 1. This sounds like my family. I'm still considered to be a slow one and one of the kids because I'm 27 and haven't had my first baby yet. The worst part is, I really wonder if there is something wrong with me for being 27 and not married or a mom. On the day I graduated with my master's degree, my parents threw me a party. My aunt attended. I was standing at the head of the table, about to cut into the cake. My aunt asked me, in front of everyone, what I was going to do next. I told her that I had accepted a fellowship and was going to attend X university for my PhD. She looked right at me, right in front of my grandparents and parents and all of my friends and said, "Boy, first name, it's a shame you haven't met Mr. Right yet so that you could quit doing all that school." Such a backward piece of shit. God, she's awful. At my brother's wedding his bride gave him the cheek at the "you may kiss the bride" part. Yeah, she ended up cheating on him with some guy online in less than a year. She was cheating on him long before that. The bride invited her ex-BF of 7 years to the wedding. I don't understand why people feel a need to invite exes. Even if the relationship ended amicably, they are exes for a reason. The day is supposed to be a celebration of your union with another person. I know of a wedding where the bride invited an ex-boyfriend of 5 years. He brought his new fiancée. She spent the whole time being openly irritable about him seeing the bride again. My high school sweetheart ex came to our wedding. He's a dear friend and my husband loves him. We also went to his wedding. Just because you shouldn't be a couple doesn't mean you can't make great friends. Walking in on the groom getting railed by one of the groomsmen in the suite at the resort during the reception. He was just making sure he wasn't gay before getting hitched. Dudes do it all the time. Why do you think the best man is the best man? The idea is if you can get us fucked by the dude you think is the best and still want pussy, you are golden. http://imgur.com/slid6?r. The groom saying the bride looked really chubby in her wedding dress. The groom making fun of the deaf grandmother. The groom existing. Bride was on her phone the whole time at the wedding. All her family and friends were there, so who was she texting? Turns out it was her boss, who was also at the wedding. And if you're thinking they were getting down to some sexy talk, you're wrong. The groom, now increasingly paranoid, later found a text sent by his wife during the ceremony which read, "I can't wait to start a family with you." He found that text whilst on honeymoon. Bear in mind too that this girl had pestered him to propose for 10 years, and would pry on nights out because he hadn't yet popped the question. Broke up a month after the ceremony, divorced in 3. Happy ending though. 3 years after this happened he gets married again next weekend to a great girl, and his ex is married too now I hear. I suppose even villains deserve a happy ending. I'd love to hear how they covered this whole shit show in the speeches at her second wedding though. This whole story has also reaffirmed my decision to avoid spending 20 grand to watch people I hate eat quiche. My lady and I will go on holiday, hire a priest and some monkey ushers, then get wasted and come home married. Edit, clarifying that the guy is getting married this weekend, not the weekend after his last marriage failed. Bride had cold feet prior, but decided she was into it. At the ceremony she freaked out when priest/whoever said they'd handle sending the license stuff in instead of her being able to handle it later. Her way out? They only got married because they had unprotected sex on their first date and conceived a child. Fast forward a few months, the bride objects to going to the groom's friend for flowers for the wedding, because she has a religious objection to the gay lifestyle. Turns out she's also incredibly racist. The groom is not homophobic or racist at all and was appalled to find out that his new wife wouldn't approve of most of his friends. The baby hasn't even been born yet and the divorce is pending. Religious objections to the gay lifestyle, but premarital sex is A-OK.